Hello, you are listening to the Inspired Lifestyle Podcast with myself, Chima, and we are in a place called Southall. It actually feels like India, to be fair. So those of you who don't know what Southall is or where Southall is, Google it. Southall is in Middlesex, in London, or next to London rather, and it's actually known for a huge community of Indians, Pakistanis, basically a lot of people who arrive into the UK mainly from the east usually end up here first. Today's podcast is going to be on a topic which a lot of people actually ask me about, and I'll tell you the reason for that, the reason why later. But it's all about immigration, and it's not just about immigration for students or people who want to start a new life because they want to leave the life that they have in other countries. But there's also a lot of businessmen in other countries that want to come and settle in the UK just so that they can take advantage of maybe taxation or maybe for better education for their children. And there is none other than the best lawyer in the UK who's won many awards. He's also known as the immigration guru on BBC Asian Network. He's on Sky News almost every single week. And he's also one of my best friends, somebody who I've grown up with, Harjap Singh Bhangal. Harjap, thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, it's been a long time since I've been in Southall, and I can't say that much has changed.
It's exactly as you leave it. And in fact, it's they call this Little India or Mini Punjab because historically, when people first started coming here from India to the UK, they would land at Heathrow Airport. And this is one of the closest towns to Heathrow Airport. As you know, it's only about 4 or 5 minutes away. So people began to settle here and get jobs at the airport. So Southall, Hounslow, Hayes, Slough, Heston, these all areas are pretty much occupied and by residents from East Asia. So for India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Arab countries.
Right.
And we've got Somalians. We get a lot of Somalians here as well now.
Got it.
Recently. But yeah, this is why it's a hub for the Asian community.
Before I get on to immigration, and I have quite a few questions, which I'm going to try and make them a little different to the type of content that you've already released, because I know that you actually have a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, I've got my own YouTube channel. I've got my own TV show, do a radio show, like you said. So we've got quite a few mediums through which we interact with the public with.
Sure. Tell the listeners a little bit of, a brief background about yourself.
Right, okay. So I'm born and bred in the UK. My name is Harjap Singh Bhangal. I qualified as an immigration lawyer in 2002. I've been doing immigration law for 18 years. I have an office here in Southall, right in the centre of the immigration hub, also in Birmingham, and also an office in Jalandhar. Jalandhar is the immigration capital of India. So I'm there in all these places. I come back and forth to India a lot. I go to Midlands a lot. And I deal primarily, I started off by helping people who are here in the UK illegally and how to get them status here. And how people who'd come here maybe cross the rivers and cross, by lorry, by foot, and help them to stay here and get visas and regularize their stay here. Then I realized that, why are these people coming here? They should be coming here with visas the correct way. And then when the feedback was, we didn't have the knowledge or education. So then I decided to go open an office in India and educate the public through YouTube, radio and TV as to the correct ways to migrate here. And now I do both. I help people who are here illegally, and I help people come here and move around the world with visas so they don't have to be illegal anymore.
I think that's the point I would like to highlight, because there are a lot of people who are refused visas and then they decide to take other measures to come into the country, thinking that the streets are paved with gold. As soon as you land here, you're going to get a job, get a house, and your life's going to change. Is that actually what happens?
No, it's far from it. The worst thing you can do in a country is stay there illegally, in any country, be it in India, as we're seeing now, or be it in the UK, be it in Canada. Wherever you want to go, you want to have a visa, you want to have proper documents, you want to be able to work, you don't want to have to hide from the police or the authorities, you want to have your own place, you don't have to be holed up and paying extortionate rent and underpaid wages. So you want to live your life with quality. What happens is people live leave a life of maybe not so good quality back home and actually end up living just the same life here. So they haven't progressed in life. The immigration hasn't allowed them to make any progression, and that's due to a lack of education or lack of ways as to how we can qualify for visas. Or maybe people don't qualify for visas and think, you know what, I'm just going to go abroad anyway.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of that is there, and immigration really, to make immigration work for you and be successful to you, you have to make sure you qualify, sit in the right categories, and eventually get something called your PR, permanent residency.
Got it. So just to go back a step before we talk about illegal immigrants and the right way of coming to the UK, is it just people from India that you work with, or is it people from anywhere in the world that want to migrate to the UK?
We work with people from all over the world. So my clients range from Indians to Brazilians to Nigerians to Kenyans to Canadians. I've just done a visa for a Canadian person, and people probably sitting there thinking, why would a Canadian person need a visa to come to the UK? The reason is, for the UK, they treat everyone the same, regardless of whether you're from Canada, whether you're from Australia, whether you're from India, whether you're from Pakistan. They treat you as the same, and the conditions are the same. So a lot of people are unaware of that. So our clients range from all over the world, and they range from people who are poor, people who are middle class, people who are skilled workers, people who are low skilled workers, businessmen who want to come and set their businesses up, or rich investors who just want to invest their money here. So we have clients from all across the spectrum.
I want to talk a little bit about the illegal immigrants, but mainly I want to focus on the right way of people coming into the UK. So with the illegal immigrants here, I know that the UK government are very, very strict on immigration now,
Yeah.
especially since Brexit.
Yeah.
The pressure is on. What advice would you give to people who might be in the country illegally and living a very poor quality life because of that reason?
Well, the first thing is Brexit. Brexit happened because this country wants to reduce immigration. If you read the papers for the last 10 years, it's all about reducing immigration, reducing net migration. So they don't want people to settle here anymore. And Brexit was a result of that, a result of saying to the European people, you can't just come and go and bring your relatives here anymore. You know, we will decide who enters our country and who's not. So for people thinking that Brexit is going to increase immigration, because a lot of people in India perhaps thought, oh, now they won't have the Europeans in, they'll give more visas to Indians. That's not true. What's going to happen is it's going to be equally tough for everyone to be here. So that's the purpose of Brexit. For the people who are living here illegally, it's never been an easy ride. Before, you had to stay here 14 years illegally to get some sort of residence. Now they've upped it to 20 years.
Wow.
By the time you do that, and by the time you get your passport, 30 years will have elapsed. So if you come here when you're 30, you'll be 60 by the time you've got your passport. You're not married, you haven't got any kids. What are you going to work for? Who are you going to give this to? In another 10 years, you'll be dead. Right, so you don't have no ancestors to give your money to. You know, you don't have any descendants to give your money to. What are you? Your money's not in a bank account. It's held here, there, in cash, hidden all over the place. All you end up being is an ATM, or it's a cash point for people back home. Your family back home phone you and say, can we have 5,000 rupees? Or can I have 20,000 rupees, please? Send them, there you go, there you go, there you go. And people here living illegally are victims of depression, violence, getting underpaid, overcrowded, disease, illness, mental health problems. They get into a life of crime, drugs, alcohol abuse. That's common. And Southall is a hub for that. And you'll see that walking down the streets of Southall. You'll see drug abusers openly there. People in the morning are drinking and with alcohol problems, smoking substances, abusing it. That's because the fact is they can't see a future for themselves.
It's a real shame that people have to live that kind of lifestyle. Would you not suggest that these people, instead of wasting their life, go back to the countries where they came from and maybe try and start a business? Because in today's day and age, even countries like India are very advanced, even for the middle class or the people who never used to have opportunities before. Would you not agree with that?
They seem to have a different perception. I've obviously seen how progressive countries like India are, the UAE are, places like that. However, when you talk to these people, they're generally from farming backgrounds. They're from poor backgrounds. If they had that opportunity in India, they would never have left. So they always say, without any sort of approach. Without influence, we won't get anywhere. Without paying someone a bribe, we won't get anywhere. And they say, you know what, I'd rather peel potatoes in the UK than rather do the same thing back home, because at least I'll get paid more for doing that, even if it means I have to live a life. These people are reluctant to go home. You'd think after 18 years of living here like this, people would have had enough, but they haven't. They still come in and say, you know what, Harjap, I'd rather wait the 2 now. And I'll say, haven't you had enough or you want to go back? We find that people are still very loath to go back. So they'd rather live here illegally. There's 1.5 million people living here illegally, not just from India, but from all over the country, all over the world. So Ghana, Nigeria, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Kenya, South America. A lot of Brazilians are illegal in the UK. You wouldn't think that, but they are. There's a lot of Brazilians here. Chinese. There's a lot of Chinese who are living here illegally. And people from all over the world. We've got a lot of people from Mauritius living here illegally.
Wow.
And Mauritius is somewhere I've been on holiday.
Yeah.
And I think, why would you want to live here? But people want to live here. They go, we like the UK, we want to stay here. It's a source of income for us. And that tells you 2 things. One, there's not a lack of work here. So these people do find jobs here.
Yeah.
And the jobs pay better than they would back home. Or there's pressures on them not to come back home because their family have become so addicted to these people sending money back. And the real success is for the families back home, because they're not working. They're the ones driving around in cars bought by money by people sending here. The people here living illegally, they can't even afford a bus to travel. They haven't got a car, but their families back home, big cars, big houses, motorbikes, having a good life.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the answer to all of this could be education?
It's always education. No matter whatever question you ask, I've always said, no matter what the question, the answer is always education. It can be any field of life. Whether you talk about fitness, the answer is education. It's what you do. You go to India, you educate people through your gyms and seminars. It's a form of education. You educate people like me about health and fitness who perhaps don't realise until it's too late. The answer is always education. Whether you talk about poverty, whether you talk about battling against crime, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, until people are educated into any form of life, they will not find any solutions to this. So definitely the answer is education.
As a UK taxpayer and somebody whose father was also an immigrant and paid tax all his life, does it not upset you to see that there's so many illegal workers in the UK who don't pay taxes, and you are contributing towards the economy where your tax is actually used by illegals?
You know what, that's a really good question, and that's one of the conflicts you have to deal with, but you can't think of it as that situation. You have to think of it from a human's perspective. For us people, all of our parents were immigrants at one time, including your parents. When they came here, how much did they have in their pocket? They didn't have £50 in their pocket. They didn't have start-up money. They didn't have £200,000 given to them by their dad. They didn't even have a pound in their pockets. They lived in areas like this. They lived with people who were perhaps illegal at the time as well. They lived 10, 15 in the house. Then they got jobs. Then they started paying taxes. First, the jobs that people did were cash-in-hand jobs. Now, you have to deal with, do you help with our community, or do you in fact say, you know what, we've come here and we're successful, now I'm going to pull the ladder up for everybody else. Now I'm going to say to all of my community back home, sorry, you can't access to what I accessed. It's like walking through the door when an opportunity is there, then shutting it for people behind you. Why can't they walk through the door? They should be allowed to walk through the door. Just because I've made a success, now do I pull that ladder up or shut that door and leave them dangling there? Anyone coming here, we're trying to say, don't come through the incorrect measures. Because it's not me who will suffer, it's them who will suffer.
Yeah.
And actually the illegal immigrants here, if you talk to them, they say, we want to pay tax. We want to be able to work. Give us a visa. We'll happily pay tax. It's the government who says, if we let you pay tax, it's like rewarding you for coming here illegally. And then more are going to line up to come illegally. So the government's caught in a catch-22, the migrants caught in a catch-22, people like me and you are caught in a catch-22. Do we help our people back home, or do we say, actually, no, you're a stain on our community, you're coming here illegally, my dad came here the correct way, because of you now, we're getting a bad name in the community. That's one angle, yeah? The other angle is, well, hold on, things are so bad back home, should we let these people starve to death? Or should we let that one person come here, live illegally, and feed another 10 people back home, his family back home? Why doesn't his kids deserve to go to private schools there? When other rich kids in India, they go there. So doesn't the equilibrium of balance need to change? Why should all the wealth stay with 0.1% of the people in India? If that's the case, then the landlords and the people who've got money will always have the money. The poor will never have a chance to do anything. Because of migration, whether it's legal or illegal, all these Kotiya in Punjab, that's made with all people, illegal immigrants, going back and making the money. All these people driving around in big Boleros and big Jeeps and now Q7s, that's all because of illegal immigrants working hard here and sending money back. Yeah, they don't pay tax, but that's because the system doesn't allow them to.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I do appreciate that, okay? But don't you think that this is a never-ending story? Because the more money the illegals send back, the more boleros and the houses that they build, the more the youth in India will say, well, we don't want to study, we'd rather go illegal and do the same thing ourselves.
It's a chain, it's a vicious circle, and it will never end. Migration will never end, and it will always happen. It doesn't just happen for poor people, even rich people. Rich people think we get clients who are from China and they're doing really well. When I mean really well, they only come here for the weekends to do shopping. And when they do shopping, they spend £200,000-300,000, and we wouldn't even think about spending that to buy a flat or a house. We haven't got that sort of cash available. But these guys, they come here, they spend cash. Sometimes I wonder whether their breakfast, their egg has LV written on it. So this is why how much money they've got. When their children come to study here, and we say you're going to have to rent an accommodation, their parents say, "I'll send them £500,000. Harjap, buy my house here, just to stay for uni years for 3 years. Then the house empty or not. That's how much money they've got. Even they think we want to migrate here. We want to make our 2 million into 10 million, our 10 million into 20 million. So that's just human instinct.
Always wanting
better, always wanting to turn our £2 into £5, £5 into £10. That's the vicious circle of greed.
Sure.
When the greed finishes, then if it ever finishes, then these things can happen. But I don't think that this is going to happen. And you know, you can't. I suppose everybody's got a right to prosper. You can't limit people's right to prosper just because of where they're born. If you're saying to people in Africa, you're born in a poor village without water, your children are going to be born there, their children are going to be born there, you can't go anywhere, that's not right of us. Everyone's right to make money, and people will go to whatever lengths they do to try and make money. Yeah, and it does encourage others. And if wealth encourages others to be wealthy, you know, then that's just the way it is. And
Sure.
People, even in, like, I'll give you an example. Out of this coronavirus thing that's happening at the moment, there's hedge fund managers who are making money out of it. There are people who are multi-billionaires who are still making money out of it. Yeah. So people will. It's not the poor people who try and make money out of a crisis. It's the rich people as well. So the model's the same. It doesn't matter. It just matters how much money you've got.
Different scale.
Yeah.
So let me move on to the right way.
Yeah.
The correct measures that people should be taking. So I want to start. I want to start with the basics. Let's say students who want to come into the UK.
Yeah.
Is there a right way of doing it?
Of course there is. You come here and get a student visa, but for that you make sure that back home you've learned how to speak English first. Clear your IELTS. Make sure your grades are good. Make sure your grades are over at least 70%.
What's an IELTS?
IELTS is an English exam that you do back home. It's universally recognised all over the world. So it's called International English Language Testing System. Hence you get IELTS. So once you've done that, you can come here and study as an international student. Depending on which country you go to, that depends on whether you'll get permanent there or what the scope is later on. The policy at the UK is pretty clear at the moment. It says come, study, then go home. It doesn't really let students stay on to make their life for themselves. Other countries such as Canada and Australia, they allow students to stay on, and depends on what sort of subjects they study. The world at the moment is looking for STEM graduates. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Maths. If you study in them subjects, any country where you go will take you on afterwards to work. If you're going to do the generic subjects, such as arts, business studies, hotel management, hospitality, then don't expect much scope after you've finished your studies abroad. Then
Okay.
you might have to go home. If you're going to become a doctor, believe me, the UK will take you on. Canada will take you on after you've qualified. A nurse, a teacher, no problem. Engineer, a scientist, most welcome here. They're the subjects to study anywhere in the world if you want to settle abroad.
So there you have it. There is a golden tip right there. So if you are currently a student and you have plans of studying abroad, maybe you should contact a good immigration consultant who will be able to tell you the types of subjects that you could possibly choose that could help you to build a better future abroad. There has been problems in the past for students where they've enrolled with colleges that are kind of like a scam. They take your money. And what should students look out for when choosing a college or university?
Well, now the UK cracked down on that in 2012, so we don't really have the sham colleges anymore here.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah. In Canada, they're still going. So in Canada, there's a lot of people who've opened colleges, sham colleges. The student enrolls there. After 6 months, the college is gone. It's closed. Student's money is lost. Student is left in limbo. Can't go home because he spent $15,000, $20,000. Can't stay there because the government said, sorry, your college is closed. The UK now gives admission in universities, proper established universities. They're not going to go bust. They're not a sham. They're where our kids will study in the future or where we've studied in the past. So, they're fine.
Is there a way of checking on like a government website if it's
there is.
approved?
Of course there is. There's a list of sponsors called a Tier 4 list of sponsors. You go onto www.gov.uk. On there's a list of approved universities who have the ability to sponsor students. Also, you can check the website out, but the fraud has become so sophisticated, people have made fake websites for colleges. Or the best thing is to do, send somebody. You might have a friend in the UK, a relative in the UK, send them there. They can go and check it out, whether it's a genuine college or uni or not.
Can students contact you to maybe make these inquiries from abroad?
They can, but the best thing to do is contact the actual uni.
Right.
And the uni will have YouTube videos. Go onto YouTube, do a search for the uni. A lot of students will have stuff there. There's a lot of presentations, seminars. The evidence is all there. You'll know which one's correct and which one's fake.
Yep.
And so you'll be able to work that one out. And the key is to get into a correct uni. After you've studied here, you get a 2-year post-study work visa, which allows you to work anywhere. And then that helps in getting your fees back. So if you've spent £45,000 on a degree, you can have 2 years to make that up, to make sure you've
Get some of that money back.
get that money
Got
back.
it. Okay.
But after that, the scope is pretty limited.
Got it. Now, before I move on to the higher net worths,
Yeah.
I want to talk about people maybe who are already qualified, maybe in India, China, whichever country they may be, Canada, America, and they want to come to the UK. Is there like a list of categories where we need certain types of employees in the country, certain professions?
Yep, a lot of countries recruit people who are highly skilled. So in highly skilled categories, usually under a points-based system, you're allowed to come here. The UK is going to introduce this one next year. So in 2021 in January, we're going to introduce a points-based system to attract the world's highest top scientists, technology people, engineering, mathematicians, the people that they need here. Canada already has a points-based system called Express Entry. Now with that, if you make the amount of points, then you get PR on arrival. Once again, they're looking for STEM graduates.
On arrival?
On arrival. So as soon as you land, you're a permanent resident of that country.
Wow.
Once again, they're looking for STEM graduates.
Right.
But they are taking people over. I had a nephew, I've got a nephew who was from India. He did engineering in Bathinda, and he did his own application. When he said, I'm going to do Express Entry, even I laughed at him. I thought, how are you going to get in there? You know, you're farming here in the village, you've done engineering. He said, but I've got all this experience. And I said, yeah, you have, but I doubt it. Make the application. He made it. In 8 months, he's through. And he's in Toronto now, and he's doing his engineering there. So you can do it, even from countries like India. People have said it, and he did it himself. And I'm his uncle, and I didn't help him with it.
Yeah.
Because I thought you do it yourself, and he did it himself. And the same system is around. So teachers, doctors, nurses, most countries need that.
Yeah.
There's a shortage occupation list in the UK where you're wanted, and then next year we're going to open the points-based system for everybody to come to the UK who fits those shortages of occupations. But it's not going to be for, you might be a doctor back home or a teacher back home, so you can work in a supermarket here or you can work in a shop here. because we did have a points-based system, but it got abused. A lot of people came over, but instead of filling the jobs they were supposed to, they started working as builders, as low-skilled jobs.
Right.
So now they've revamped it, made it a bit watertight, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to make sure that the people who come here under that profession actually work in the profession.
So there's another golden point there, ladies and gents. If you have any family members, your own children, or even yourselves, if you are thinking of immigrating, maybe UK is one of the places where you want to go, it would always be a great idea to maybe make inquiries into the types of professions that the country needs, so that you can prepare for that. I think patience is key here. Like you rightly say, there's a lot of people who kind of enter the country illegally, and they kind of waste so many years, decades of their life, and still don't have any guarantee that they may get residency. I want to talk about some of the businessmen. Now, I do frequently visit lots of countries around the world, especially in the East.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and I was quite surprised initially, there was a lot of very high net worth individuals who wanted to move to the UK.
Yeah.
And is there a system or like an application process for people who want to maybe invest and bring their whole family here to the UK?
Yeah, it's called the Investor Programme, and every country has one pretty much. The UK's one currently starts at £2 million. If you have £2 million liquid, and in what we like to call white money, i.e. it's got to be provable where it's come from, then you can come as an investor. You get a visa, you can bring your family, children under the age of 18. In family, it includes husband, wife, children under the age of 18. It doesn't include parents. But you can come here as an investor, you can live here, and after a certain amount of time, maybe 3 to 5 years, you get your permanent residency. Your children can go to school here. That'll be free under the age of 18. So, your kids can go to college here.
So as an investor,
Yeah.
your kids can go to school or college for free?
Yeah.
And you get access to the NHS?
Yep. You've got to pay a surcharge of about £250 a year. And that's going to double soon in October. But
That's
yeah,
it.
that's it.
So that £2 million that they would invest?
That's invested in a mixture of bonds and property, and the government keep an eye on it through the government schemes. And after you get your indefinite, after 5 years, you can withdraw your investment.
Do you have to be in the country for the period
Yeah,
of
so
time?
this is the key with high net worth individuals. This is the key question, you've hit it on the head. I get a lot of people saying, 2 million, no problem, but I can't stay in the UK. And we're like, okay. But the key with that is in a year, at least 6 months, you have to stay in the UK if you want permanent residency. Otherwise, if you just want the visa, you can just stay here one day and they'll keep on giving you the visa. Not a problem. But you need to, in order to stay here, spend 6 months in a year. And a lot of high net worth individuals, they don't actually want to do that. But the idea is that if you're looking to stay at least 6 months in a year outside of your home country, then this is a visa. There's another visa scheme in Ireland, which is not part of the UK, Southern Ireland we're talking about, so Dublin, where if you go there and invest €1 million, you get PR on arrival. Your whole family gets PR on arrival, and there you can bring your parents and children up to the age of even 24. They can come with you. You give the government basically €1 million. They invest that into social housing. After 5 years, they give you the money back with maybe 2-3% interest. After 5 years, you get an Irish passport. And for there to retain your PR, you only have to go 1 day a year.
Really?
So you'll always have PR in Ireland. To get the passport, you have to stay there. But if you don't want the Irish passport, you just want PR, 1 day a year.
So if you have PR in Southern Ireland, can you come to the UK?
As a visitor you can, but you can't reside here. But if you get an Irish passport, then you can come. Because Ireland is the only country that's exempt from Brexit. So even after Brexit, Irish citizens can still come here and live here like they were before. No
So
problem.
if you get PR in Southern Ireland, you can come and go as you wish, as a visitor?
Yeah, as a visitor you can probably come and go wherever you want. But if you get an Irish passport, it's even more valuable than a UK one. Because after Brexit, Irish citizens can still go and live in the EU, and they can live in the UK. And they have a reciprocal scheme with the US, where if you're in a certain age, you can go up to there and live in the US for 2 years without a visa.
I think I need one of those.
Yeah, well, in the UK you can't go and live in the US without a visa.
Yeah.
But you can if you've got an Irish passport.
So can UK people get an Irish passport?
Yeah, if their ancestry is Irish, but I don't think me and you qualify for that.
Yeah. My ancestry is in Punjab.
Yeah, I don't think say if you're British and your grandma was born in Ireland,
Right.
yeah, you can get an Irish passport.
Okay.
And Irish passports applications have gone up the most since any other passport application since Brexit. And so last year the Irish passport department was inundated because all the British people are applying for Irish passports, because once you have an Irish passport, you've still got access to the EU. Brexit doesn't affect you, and you can live in the UK as well.
Awesome. Well, look, there were some really valuable golden nuggets there. And the purpose of this podcast is to inspire people to live a better quality life and improve their lives, not just their own, but the people around them. And immigration is definitely a big problem around the world. I see it all the time. I go to America, I see America's got problem with people coming in across the borders.
Yeah.
Go to Canada, I see people coming in from all over the world. UK, Europe, it is a big problem. And I think, just like Harjap said very rightly, education is the answer. This may not make a difference to the masses, but even if it makes a difference to one or two people, I think we've served our purpose. Just before we come to a close on this, Harjap, I want to ask you, has the coronavirus made any difference to visa applications or the way that government are looking at things at the moment?
It's going to make a huge impact because people's visas are running out and they can't go back home because there's no flights available. A lot of airline carriers are refusing to carry people, say, to India, Pakistan, and you've got a lot of people on visitors here and they can't get the flight back, or they're having to make alternative arrangements or pay extortionate prices. So the government need to think about giving people extensions, temporary extensions, until this is over. The same thing happened when the ash cloud thing happened, you might remember, and then people were stuck here and the flights weren't travelling, and so there's going to be some sort of scheme that they'll probably announce soon.
Let me ask you this. So if somebody has overstayed their visa because of this problem, would that be a problem when they reapply?
It might be, but then they can use that as an excuse. It's not as if they're telling a lie, but it's not just, so the key is to make sure you do it reasonably. So if this virus ends by the end of the month and you go back next year and they say, I've got overstayed because of the virus, I don't think they're going to accept that reason.
But like the fact is like, if you've already got a flight booked and you wasn't able to travel and you could prove that, that would be the right way of doing it.
The key would be to contact the Home Office first and to apply for an extension.
Right.
But that will cost you money.
Right.
So that will cost you money. It might cost you £500 to £1,000.
Yeah.
But at least you cover yourself.
Okay.
And then you won't be illegal here. You won't be seen as an overstayer here. Because if you overstay here, then they give you a ban before you can enter the country again.
Wow.
Up to anything from 1 year to 10 years.
Okay. So people who are unsure of what to do, can they contact you?
Of course they can. They can always contact me, and they can contact me through the website, www.harjapbhangal.co.uk, Facebook, Twitter. Try not to contact me through Instagram and Twitter and places like that, because it's not the most conventional way of dealing with people. But yeah, you can contact me through there, email me. It's all through the website contact form.
What is your Instagram handle, just in case?
At Harjap Bhangal. Twitter is at Harjap Bhangal. Facebook is Harjap Bhangal. So just Google me and it'll all come up.
Awesome. Harjap, we really appreciate the golden nuggets that you've given, and I really do hope that this helps some of you out there to understand the immigration process and that there is a right way of doing things. Don't do it illegally. We appreciate, and one of the biggest points that I will take away from this is that everybody wants to do better. Everybody wants more. Personally, I feel that sometimes you have to just remind yourself that although you want more and you want better, there are people who are hoping that they could have what you've got. So maybe having patience and doing things the right way is the answer. Education, as Harjap said. Harjap, thank you very, very much.
No, thank you for coming down and taking time out.
Appreciate it. You've been listening to the Inspired Lifestyle Podcast with myself, Jag Chima. Until next time, stay safe.